Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today on Contract Glance, we're going to be discussing AWS certifications. Last time I discussed Microsoft certifications, and this time we're going to be discussing the AWS counterparts. The AWS counterparts, just like the Microsoft certifications, will go for a better salaried type of jobs you're going to be able to find. So they go with security, development, machine learning, and cloud. So any certification that can give you that with a big technology like Amazon Web Services will usually give you a pretty good chunk of change to play with when you go look for the jobs. These are certifications that I would pick and I would consider pursuing if you have not picked a certification just yet and you want to get into the AWS space. So let's get started. In here, we're going to be discussing some of the ones that I believe are worth getting. And the way it works is that you just need to pick one and you get it. There's no, except for the DevOps engineer, there isn't, a path like in the Microsoft ones where you need to do test 1, test 2. They're just their own individual test. You do not need an associate to get a professional. You just need to follow whatever says here. You need 2 years of experience, and then you can take the professional exam, or 1 year of experience, and then you can take the solutions architect exam. When it comes to this experience, it really is a little bit ambiguous. It doesn't really have to be a year of experience. Like, they'll let you take the test regardless. Like, that's all I'm saying. They're not gonna double check this. If you pass the test, you got the certification. Just letting you know. So we're going to be discussing on some of the certifications that I believe are worth getting. I'm going to be talking about the solutions architect, developer, machine learning, security, data analytics, and the cloud practitioner. Cloud practitioner is usually the easiest ones to get, so I always include one certification that's super easy, just to get your feet wet. And if you want to pursue AWS jobs, then having it is better than not having it. However, if the job has a specific requirement, or if the job is much more, if it's for an actual architect or it's for actual development, then you want to go for something more specific like the solutions architect or the developer certification. This is my 2 cents on that. So let's discuss the cloud practitioner. The cloud practitioner is $100, and it's 90 minutes of an exam with 65 questions. Most of them are going to be like this, 65 questions. The cost will vary, and the actual difficulty will vary. So the cloud foundation is usually the easiest one to get, and is one that I would recommend if you don't know what you want, but you want to try the AWS stack. Unfortunately, from my experience, the cloud practitioner certification doesn't get you much. That's why I don't even have a salary associated with it, because it's so ambiguous, and I only find it very useful if you have nothing else on your resume, or if you're just starting out and you need something to separate you from the pack. If you want an AWS certification, I would recommend understanding what your tech stack or what your job you're going to is, and then using that to determine what your certification is going to be. So let's move on to the solution architect. So this one is 150 USD. It's more time than the one. The other one was 90 minutes. This is 130 with the same 65 questions. So most of these will follow this formula where it's going to be 65 questions, about 130 minutes. And it's going to be that there's 1,000 points on the exam, and you need to pass 720 points. Now, the solutions architect exams are a little bit different than the Microsoft ones. Where the Microsoft ones are, I think, a bit more rote memory stuff. When it comes to the solutions architect, it's more understanding the relationships between the actual hardware, the actual virtualized systems in the cloud, and their costs. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to give a solution to a potential client, a fake client in the exam that asks you, I want the best thing for this cost. Like, I want the best thing but for the cheapest cost. Or I just want the best thing regardless of the cost. Is not an issue. So they'll give you a few choices, and you have to decide which one's like the best choice for that particular thing. It isn't as easy as it sounds, to be honest, because there's a lot of things that AWS solutions architects have to know, and there's a lot of systems in the AWS solutions software. So this test is pretty difficult, and I tried it a few times. I failed all of them. The highest score I've ever gotten was 700, but that was not enough, unfortunately. So maybe round 5, I'll get it. But I'm not gonna go for this right now. However, it would be nice to go for it. Maybe I'll try for the Azure. I don't know, because I am a Microsoft stack. So, anyways, if you were to get this job, just like in my thumbnail, I have a thumbnail that has the actual 110,000. This is actually that much. Honestly, I think that you can go. This can give you 150K easy if you have the experience and you have the solutions architect here. If you have the professional one, then I think that you will be able to get a lot more. Maybe you'll get up to that point much easier. So moving on, the certified machine learning. So just like Azure, they offer you a machine learning certification as well. And I believe this certification is also worth getting if you're going into the AWS stack. So if you're not going to Microsoft, but you want to do machine learning and you want to do AWS, then this is how you would do it. This is for the AWS cloud. And it's 300 USD. This is the specialty ones, the ones that are on this side of that chart over there. So right here. So it's 180 minutes, 65 questions, and I believe this is one of the harder ones. So anyone that I see with a lot of time on them, and with a lot of money, just assume that they're very difficult. So this is probably ranked higher in difficulty. So Cloud Foundation is the easiest one, then the associates, and then the specialty ones. The specialty ones require you to, I would take a course for them and stuff, but they are worth getting. As in this case, I'm using different salary websites, by the way, but these are the ones that I able to find that I think makes the most sense. So for the machine learning one, it's a machine learning engineer with AWS. It's roughly 120K. I'm not sure this is specific to AWS, but this is the closest thing I was able to find. So about 120K is pretty decent to what I expect the machine learning engineer to make. So I'm just going to be moving on to the security. So the security one is not a development one again, just like in the Azure case. This is another, working with the security portions of the AWS cloud. So you will be responsible for keeping it safe, for building the right, the right connections and having the right security plan, having the right firewalls and stuff like that in the AWS cloud. So this case is another $300 one when it's 170 minutes. So right now you're seeing that a lot of them are already cost a lot more than the ones I mentioned in the Microsoft Azure ones. So that is another reason why you maybe might think about doing Azure, because they don't cost as much as this. This is 300. I believe the Azure version of this is 150 or 160 around there. But for this one, you can get about $143,000 a year. That's pretty good, almost $70 an hour. Again, that's a decent salary and worth the price of doing the certification if you could afford it. But it is much harder. Data analytics is another specialty one. Again, $300, 180 minutes, 65 questions. And this is for you data analytics people that you want to, if you want to work with AWS and you have data analytics as you want to be a data analyst, then go for this one. Again, this is more expensive than the Microsoft one, but you use the AWS solution. I don't know which one's better or not. I guess it depends on you and what your development stack is going to be. If you're more open source, then AWS is probably the way you want to go. If you are using a Microsoft technology, then I would keep using Azure. Honestly, it makes no difference if you go for this one or the Microsoft one. Just whatever is easiest for you to obtain. So if you and AWS is much more, it's much more open source friendly than the Azure stuff is. Just a tidbit there. 96K for data analyst. I would expect a little bit more, maybe 110, but that's what this says here. This is what pay scale gives me. $96,000 is the median. You could always go for more. Data analysts are going to be much more in demand as we go forward into the future, and having a certification like this will make you better at negotiating for the right price. Let's continue to developers. So developers for people like myself who are full stack or whatever, and they want to work into either one of the tech stacks. So in this case, the tech stack is going to be AWS. If I want to be an AWS developer using the AWS solution to develop whatever, even as a C# engineer, I would go for this one. It's 150 USD, 130 minutes, 65 questions. It's comparable to the solutions architect one. If I want to continue being an AWS developer, or not AWS developer, if I want to continue just being a developer and I want to have AWS to complement my skills, then I would go for this one. I also think that solutions architect is pretty good to get if you are a developer as well. If you want to have a more cloud focused career, you want to go into that territory. But if you don't, then having the developer associate is pretty good. It allows you to learn the APIs and anything you have to know to use the AWS cloud as you would use any other monolithic technology if you're building like a 3-tier architecture and you're working off of that. So for me, this would probably be the best for me in my case if Azure wasn't more compatible for my tech stack. For you, again, if you're using something like Python and stuff, AWS is far better for you Python users out there. And if you're using C#, then obviously Azure will be better for you. And they're about this, the average salary is 126,000 is what I expect. That's about the average amount for a developer if you have a few years on you. And a cloud developer now, I would suggest thinking about getting it. If you're going into development, I would suggest getting some sort of cloud certification, whatever it is, because that's the shift that we're seeing. Cloud, machine learning, security, and data analytics. These are the top 4 things that we'll be seeing more. Machine learning, I also include automation in there because you use machine learning, AI, all that stuff. That's more or less this comparable. So when you do think about these certifications, remember that. And I think that's it. I think these certifications are future proof and will be valuable for you going forwards into your career. Even if you might not go into these specific categories, they will greatly improve your chances of your resume getting seen and will help you decide on your path if you're still early on in your tech path. Now, do not underestimate these exams, though. The Solutions Architect kicked my ass. It kicked my ass. And I'm sad about that because it costs quite a few dollars. But it is worth getting if you want to go down the cloud path. If not, then I would recommend the other ones, but they're not going to be easier. The cloud formation one is probably the one that's more beginner friendly. Again, it's really only useful if you have nothing more on your resume. If you have more experience, then I would suggest getting the other ones other than cloud foundation. But if you don't, or if you require it for whatever job it is, I have never seen it before myself, but whatever, then go for it. That's it. That's it for the certifications. I'm going to give you my outro, and in the next couple of seconds, once I do my cutting here.